Welcome to CATtheMinion YouTube channel. My name is Theresa, but you can call me Cat. I'm doing a Cat's Corner video here. I think it's been a year since I've done one. I meant to get back to it, but I had some stuff going on. So what I'm doing today is a little guide on how to draw faces. So this paper that I'm using is printer cardstock. It's still fairly thin, but it's got some weight to it. It's what I use to print my music deck out on, and it's what I use to make when I print out my cards to put in the chapbook packs. Here's on the back of my template here, this is the same cardstock as these are some older cards I printed when my ink was running low. The same stuff. So that's what paper I'm using. You can use regular copy paper. You can use any old thing that's laying around, basically. You can use the back. You can use index cards on the non-lined side. You can use drawing paper like this little thing here. Mat board, cardboard, paperboard, whatever you've got. Now, when I draw, even if I do something that's super complex, like this would have started with graphite, and then I drew over it with Sharpie, and then I erased the graphite as I went along, and then colored it in. For example, and then another example is this one. So I would have drawn out the design in pencil, and this was originally on mat board, and then I cut it out and peeled it with an X-Acto knife and then colored the inside with Sharpie. So that's how I made this particular artwork that I have on my other thing, but it starts out with the pencil. So I'm going to talk about drawing faces. And typically when the age-old thing of drawing faces is to draw an oval, and then about halfway you're gonna put the eyes, and then the nose, and the mouth. It looks pretty crappy to me. And this method never really worked that well. They come out looking like those Sumerian votive people. Some hair on here just for funsies. There. So this is not the great way to draw faces. So one thing that's good to think about when drawing faces is that you're dealing with a three-dimensional object, right? So I forgot about the other things I'm using. This is just a mechanical pencil, 0.7 millimeter, and then this is the kind of eraser that I use. I've got an old one here that I'm still working on. So and this is just masking tape on here. I had an old one and that I've had for about 20 years, and I could not find it, so we were at the store and I grabbed a couple more. I don't know what I'm gonna do with the second one, because this one's gonna last me another friggin' 20 years. Okay, so the head is a three-dimensional object, right? We're dealing with something that's on the skull. So if we have somebody's neck here, let's get the shoulders in here a little bit. The neck comes up into your scalp in the back, and your head kind of sits on it like a sphere, right? That's weird to look at that through the camera. So you have a spherical part here, where the tendons and stuff come down. And then the face comes off it, and you have the forehead. And the jaw comes in like this and is somewhat of a box. Right, and then the zygomatic arch will come up here where the ear goes. Have the top of the, there, more of an arc. And the eye will be in here somewhere. And the nose, however that's going to come out. Now the mouth kind of protrudes a little bit here. And then the chin will come down. So the way that I've drawn this, the skull is not actually big enough, so we're going to add more volume here and bring the neck down a little bit. So when you're drawing a face, you have to realize that there's a whole three-dimensional object involved in it. I have to pick up the camera leg here, hold on. Get over to the other side of the page. And like when you're looking at it from the front, there's this whole other view of the face, right? We know that it's sort of shaped like this, but we're dealing with volume, right? We're dealing with a three-dimensional object. So even if we draw the features of the face, shadow here because it's a three-dimensional object, there's going to be volume behind it, right? There's volume here, there's volume here, there's volume here. So there's this kind of series of shapes. And what happens is that the human face is made up of this sort of almost infinite number of little planes going in different directions. And if you've ever seen those little computer graphic things, especially from the 90s, like think first version Lara Croft, you'll see that there's an array. Let me zoom in on that. There's an array of planes. Even the forehead, there's going to be a plane going this way and another one coming up here in most faces. And there. And there's going to be smaller planes coming in this way. So as you can see, as I'm building this up, that there's a lot of geometry in a face. Let me zoom this back out a little bit. Hopefully I won't fuck up the camera. Ooh, okay, almost. Alright. Check my focus here. Okay, so let me move this paper back out here. Now, another thing that happens with human things, faces and bodies, that has to do with the geometry is what they call a cross contour line. I'm not going to get my whole hand in here, but there. Okay. So I like a flat hand here, but if I wanted to make this look three-dimensional, I'm going to go across the contour of it. And this is actually really fun to do with rainbow colored stuff. And I have one of these on a couple of my videos as thumbnails. My rainbow hand. Anyway, so I'm going to draw this a little bit more. I have some really good drawings from, well, they're not all good. I have a lot of drawings from college that have exercises like this in it from, I mean, some of the stuff like this that I'm doing right now, it would be like intro drawing, but a lot of the other stuff that I learned would have been in like intermediate drawing and life drawing and stuff like that. Let me get the, okay. So I probably should do the whole thing, because it'll look better that way. Put another line on this part. That's probably good enough for now. So let me just color these in a little bit so it's easier to see. There's more stuff. Was not going to be using color. I think I just moved the camera to. It'll be faster if I use the markers. Get in here behind my painting. Come on. Too short for this. Okay. Look at the markers. There we go. So I'm gonna check my focus because I was jiggling stuff around. So I'm just gonna quickly go in here and get some color to just differentiate these lines a little bit. Now, incidentally, once I'm done with this video, this is the kind of stuff I will chop down and put in my chapbook packs. So someone will probably get this poor sod up here, and then this will be another artist trading card, and then this one will be one as well, and they'll be stuffed in with some other stuff in the little chapbook packs. Couple of poems, couple of drawings, one from the pile over here, all tucked up in the little envelope. So that's where those come from, and that's little bits of art and stuff. So let me finish coloring this so you can see it. This is not going to be professionally colored because I'm just doing it as an example. I love that sound of that dry marker. No, that's too dark. It's not going to show up very well. I need new markers. I have like garbage colors left. They're all pink and yellow because I used everything else up already. This is like the real cheap stuff. One of these days I'm going to be able to afford to get some friggin' Prismacolor. Oh yes. You know, the things that's ridiculous is that I still have about 80% of the Sharpies that I got 10 years ago. It's hard to justify getting new equipment. I still have some. Okay, this is probably good enough. So you can see now a little bit that we've got a three-dimensional shape going just by doing what they call a cross contour, going across the contours of the three-dimensional shape. I'll get the date on this so in case. So I have it. And what the hell? Oh, the 26th. Okay. So we'll stick that guy over here. So another thing that's important in terms of the face drawing. So let me just put a face in here. I'm trying to do a. There we go. Get a little bit of a three-quarter view here. So there's going to be more head behind here. A three-dimensional object. There. Just kind of making these up, so I have to try to at least pretend like they're going to look realistic. This paper underneath the camera leg. Hold on. Okay. So here's a face, and there's gonna be like the eyes in here somewhere. So we have, okay, so eyelid space, eyebrows, some eyebrows in there just for funsies. Okay. The basic shape going here. So if I'm doing, it's just like not tall enough, because there's gonna be room up here for the rest of the head too. Okay. That's probably pretty good right there. A shoulder down here. Okay. So in terms of a face, there's the planes going in a bunch of different directions. I'm just kind of half-assing this, because if you were looking at a sample, you would be able to see it better too. So I've got these planes here going every which way. Okay, let me zoom in on that a little bit. Oh, okay. I don't know. Oh, here we go. Okay. Alright, so I've got these planes going every which way. But what happens is that when I do, if I pull a cross contour line here, I'm going to see that there's going to be some... Well, let me just draw these before I get going too much. The basic concept here, the eyeball, because it's three-dimensional. To at least pretend to concentrate on what I'm doing. How much time have I got? 2 minutes. Okay, I have to start another segment in a second. Okay. Okay. So this is kind of how, at least basically, how contours would cross the face. But I mean, there's also contours coming down vertically. And this is, it gives a net for how the shape of the head is. And it just gives a sense to the fact that we're dealing with a three-dimensional object here. I wish I hadn't drawn that in the middle of the goddamn page. If I could cut some blanks out of the edge though. Okay, so this is just to get in the basic concept that we're dealing with a three-dimensional object. Now, each person has a unique facial geometry. So some people's faces are going to be very round, sort of a very, not very even eyeballs, but This is just a really quick sketch, so it's not going to be perfect. So, some people are going to have a very round face. And it's going to look a little bit more like that. Other people are going to have, you know, a longer face. There could be more of a jaw involved. And the shape of the nose is usually very distinct as well. Nostrils are usually higher than the bottom of the nose, actually, so we'll just do like a very sort of Easter Island kind of a face here. You know, ears differ and all that. So just to put the basic point across, people have different hair as well. A little bit of a, it's kind of a little bit vanilla ice right there. But anyway, just to put the basic idea across that there's different face shapes, and every single person has a distinct facial geometry. So if you're trying to draw a person and all of your faces look the same, you might want to skim through some magazines or some CD covers, or just go online and, you know, look through some celebrities and pick somebody. So that's a basic overview of face drawing. So now I'm going to do a sample, and hopefully it'll come out okay. Okay. Let's put these over here. Actually, that's going to be distracting. So I have grabbed this because I keep getting hello stuck in my head. So this is the 25 cover. I took it out of the CD case because it had too much glare on it, but I really don't like this paper texture. It's kind of nasty. Never drawn Adele before, so this is going to be kind of an adventure. It's a little bit, there's fingernail polish on there. It's going to be a little bit, let me make sure this is focused. That's pretty good. A little bit of a challenge because the top of her head is cut off a little bit, and I've never drawn her before, but if I wanted to, I could go through these and see samples of what her forehead is like. So that's kind of what I do if I have a picture that I want to draw and I don't have like a full face, or I want to see what the volume of the face is more like. I'll find some other pictures. If you only have one sample though and you're trying to draw it, you just have to kind of guess. Okay, so let me see how I'm going to do this. I might not talk for a minute because it's hard for me to talk and draw at the same time. Prop that up a little bit. Maybe. Okay, target. In the camera a little bit more. This is weird because the camera is like right in front of my face. Okay. Face. A lot of the time I'll start with one eye or like part of the nose. And not traditionally, but I mean, I used to just kind of like wing it and just try to draw what was there. But after having gone through college, I do tend to sketch out the shapes. So, notice that when I'm looking here, I see the shadow. I see a distinct, to try to draw this a little darker, a distinct shape that looks kind of like this. Coming off where the eye, I'm going to draw this darker than I would normally, just so it shows up on camera. Right, so this is the shape that I'm getting over here. Now, what you could do is you could draw a square grid and then copy for like the grid for the grid. But another way to do it is to measure. So I'm going to say, okay, her eyeball is this wide over here. So the other eyeball is, you know, from this space to this space, right? So I'm saying, okay, so I've got the cross of her nose here. Let me just draw this down a little bit more. Is about yay big. And it's about half that to where the eye starts. But it's like about as tall as it is across. It's not going to be a perfect sketch because I'm just kind of trying to do a sample of how a face could be drawn. And I would normally be super paying attention to what I'm doing. I would probably be listening to the album. That's, yeah, see if the eye is way too big now in comparison to the shape. Now, 10 or 11 years ago, if I was dealing with a face that I'd never drawn before, it could take me about 3 hours just to lay out the facial geometry because I would go back and forth with it. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build these the shapes that are coming out three-dimensionally. So let me get this eye back in here. And it looks weird because I drew those lines in really dark. Normally it would be very light and sketchy like that, where you could barely see it in the thing. Okay, so I've got this part right here. And it gets a little bit hard to see where the lines actually go because of that huge dark swath from the eyeliner. But usually the eyes are kind of the last thing to get set in, so we're just going to put that kind of there for now. Alright, so now I just space this out a little bit more. And I've got this same shape that I drew here. Now I'm going to have it over here, so I'm going to erase that. And the way that I'm doing this is kind of exploring the facial geometry, and it's kind of necessary, and a good way to do it, aside from just jumping in, is to do a couple of practice sketches. So I could do a couple of smaller sketches just to get used to the shape of her face, right? Say, okay, so her nose comes down kind of like this, and then there's like this part, and that way I'm gonna get used to the shape of it better. This is still kind of too big for a sketch, but oh. Like I can try to see like how tall this part is in comparison, maybe how wide her chin is in comparison to the rest of it. And as you can see, I'm sketching in this practice sketch. It gives me a better idea of where her face is in terms of the different kinds of shapes. You can do some of this other side of the face that I haven't done yet. And I should probably she's like a pouty part. Now sometimes I'll like overdraw a certain shape, because even if it makes them look old for a minute, because it's putting in the geometry, it can always be changed later. It's just to sort of understand where the face is. Right, so looks like her nose is actually over here more. So doing a practice sketch, like 3 or 4 of these, might get a better concept of how the face moves in terms of the structure before going into a larger thing. Alright, so let me get back here. This could go horribly wrong. My hand's asleep too. I didn't know I was going to be drawing Adele this morning. I only got 3 hours of sleep and I could not get back to sleep, so I was like, okay. It's also a weird angle for me to be drawing at. So I figured I'd been putting off doing this video for like a week and a half, and I better just fucking get in there and do it. Now, it's important when hands. It's important when doing forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, it's important not to like fill in the eyes all dark or the nostrils all dark when you're not done with the sketch yet, because it can kind of create these sort of dark spaces when you erase them. Like even here, this is too dark, and I would normally have it much lighter until I wanted to come in and maybe do a little bit of shading up here. Right, because you don't, it's like, there isn't, you don't necessarily have to get all the lines in. You can come in and shade it. Now, the important part about me talking about the contour is that when you shade something, you want it to be going in the same direction as the plane, right? So the plane's here on the side of the nose. Let me just zoom in on this a little bit. Oh, that's probably pretty good there. Let's see. Okay. The planes on the side of the nose go this way. So if I want shading on the nose, I want to shade in that direction. Let me do it bigger down here. So, okay. So the planes on the nose go this way, goes that direction. So when I shade it, I want my lines going this way. Even if I'm going to make it very smooth, smoother. Smooth. God. Stuff is so old. Okay, so here's some vine charcoal. If I wanted my shading, so I have this part of the cheek here and it goes at an angle that's this way. So if I want shading here, I'm going to have it very smooth, but I'm still going to go in that direction with my stroke, even if I smudge it out. The nose is coming out towards me, and then it comes up a little bit. And this is... Now the only reason I'm shading this in is because I already drew part of the structure. So this is a little bit harder, the nose thing, the little, whatever, Cupid's bow or whatever they call it. It's, it goes one direction, and then it immediately goes the other direction. And that one's going this way a little bit. And then it comes down again. Now it's not going to look, let me smudge that down a little bit. So it creates that kind of accordion fold shape. And the lips tend to come up. So one of the most important things in making a realistic face is to have the shading go in the right direction. I feel like drawing her whole face right now. I might have to come back and do it later and then do another section. But let me get the... This isn't going to be perfect. So I'm getting this huge mascara line, and I'm going cross contour across the way that the makeup goes, or the eyeball goes, right? There. This is not going to be like a perfect likeness, because this was the sketchy version. Yeah, it's not going to be a perfect likeness at all. Okay, so this line, yeah, this isn't even right at all. The eyebrows in there a little bit. Okay, so I'll put this shape back in that I had on the other one over here. Let her face come down this way. Actually, not too bad. Actually, that's up here more, isn't it? Pop that up here better. Now, another thing that you can do to get this popping out is the way that it's drawn, well, the way that it is in the photo. Is we're going to pop this dark patch here, and that's going to give that a lot more dimension. There we go. That way I can kind of sculpt the edge out of, instead of actually drawing it, just work my way in towards the shape of the face. Really great, but so I'm like missing part of her face now. Can't really get it with the charcoal with the eraser, but it'll be in there a little bit. Okay, so this comes out like that. That's why you want to sketch it first, so you know how it goes. Make this go in the same direction that it's going. And then there's this line. I think it's too short where her nose is. It needs to be longer here. Again, this was supposed to be the sketchy bit, so I would have drawn it longer and worked on it. Maybe get a general sense here of what's going on. Yeah, her eyeball's too low. Put it up here. Let's get that, yeah. I probably just put it in the exact same place. Okay. But, yeah, that's not really that good. So this one's going kind of like that. So her chin actually starts under the middle of the nose. Alright. So that was just a little experiment in the shading as well, but I'm gonna have to get in here and draw this properly. Hands are all dirty now. Alright, I got a few seconds left on this, so I'm gonna have to come back and work on the other one. Alright, I decided to try to do this on camera anyway, so you're just gonna have to deal with the quiet and the hum of the friggin' air conditioner. Let's see what I got. Because I am not gonna get copyright infringed by putting the music on that's gonna help me do this. Okay. So, where was I? And it's perfectly acceptable to smear nail polish all over the drawing and erase it and start over. probably shaking the table, but well, well. So there's so much space here. Trying to define this shape here where the shadow is so I can figure out how to get the rest of it. Weird. So this is a little bit difficult over here because it's going in a completely different... This is a little bit difficult over here because it's going in a completely different direction. That last bit of eyebrow is coming down in a completely different plane. So when I'm drawing it here, I'm like, okay, so this whole section is going like this in opposition to the rest of it, which is coming this way. And then the part of the brow that comes in like that. So sometimes it's hard to figure out how much space, because I'm measuring this and it doesn't look right on the page when I'm measuring it back and forth with my fingers. But it's kind of about slowing down and getting it into a rhythm with it, and trying not to necessarily to hurry through the process. You know, and it's alright to have lines that you're not actually going to use. Eyes aren't always as big as you think they're gonna be either. So try putting that in there. Looks like it's facing the wrong way. So try to get the shape of the white and not focus on the eye as much. So I'm looking at just that shape of the white here and trying to get that in. Let me focus that a little bit more. Okay, there we go. So I'm just trying to get this shape in. And I'm trying to find the shape of the eye in here. Not quite as long as I thought it was, so it needs to be up here more. So women's eyes tend to be a little bit rounder in their shapes, and men's eyes tend to be a little bit chonkier, a little bit more rectangular. But it all depends on what you're looking at. It's sort of the draw what you see. Now, another thing that's important is that I've seen people do very exact replica of, they would do this exact drawing, everything would look pretty good, but they would take a photograph, which is a capture of a three-dimensional object, and it's been flattened already, and they'll draw it and it'll come out shading, everything, they worked on it for 20 hours, and it'll be flat and the eyes will be dead. And it's like, well, it looks like that, but there's no life in it, and it's flat as hell. And the thing is, like, when you capture somebody, you want to get a sort of spark in the eye. If the eyes aren't right, the whole thing is just going to be a pile of crap. And if your image isn't giving you enough dimension, then you need to actually go back and add some more in. This is a little bit extreme, but I mean, it's coming out of the page at least somewhat, I think, even though it's flat. So the goal, unless you're doing a stylized drawing that's intended to be somewhat flat, that you would want it to have some kind of shading. You'd want the darkest dark next to the lightest light to give it some contrast. I don't want to do this recording for like 3 hours, so I don't want it to be like super boring either. I'm trying to draw some different parts of the face to give people an idea of how it might happen if you're not really sure what to do. So let me try to get some of this other side of the face in, even if it's not going to be as good. Halfway through the white. Okay, that's pretty good. This one starts kind of here. That looks alright. So the issue too is that the nostrils can come up further than we think they do, because we're used to just drawing like the little bit down here and calling it good. But that's not really how it works. And now again, as I had mentioned before, the part of your nose that comes out in front, when looking at it from the front, it usually goes down below where the nostrils are. Sometimes the space is more than we think it is, and it might look weird it might feel weird to draw it, but when you're done, it'll actually look, most of the time it'll look okay. Because there's usually, you know, extra dimensions in here that we don't normally focus on. Try to get that kind of, there we go, that looks a little better. This is still not quite right though. I don't know if I'm doing the left side of her face more because it's easier for me to see because the camera's not in the way or what, but probably try to finish this drawing and show it at the end. I really don't want to though. I'm gonna have to. Okay, we'll get some of that. It's still not great, but we'll get it. Okay, so this part is, oh, I guess it does kind of go with that angle. Okay, so this is gonna come and be a little bit off center, I guess. Comes up And that goes more kind of that way. That still looks weird. Another thing that's sort of critical is to get the line of the mouth with the eyes and the line of the mouth are one of the more critical parts of a portrait. And that looks a little bit better. Okay, so there's part of the face coming out like that. Trying to get the shading. The eyebrows comes in really close. Is this boring? My battery's gonna die in a minute, so I'm gonna have to finish this off camera and come back at the end to get the rest of it in. But you can kind of see where I'm going with this. It still doesn't look right in this stage. It looks kind of fogged up, but I could easily take this out of here to make it flatter again. See, the interesting part is that the change in shape down here is really subtle because there's this tiny little light that comes in like that. Slightly better. I think her might be too far apart. Maybe. Okay. So I'm gonna work on this and come back so I don't spend like 4 hours running the camera. So just so you can see that I'm actually gonna finish this. But what I do want to do for a minute is to bring in a completed portrait that it took me half an hour and I didn't erase on it at all. So there's like a little bit of graying in the eyes and it's slightly at an angle. So here's another portrait that I finished. Because that took me a half an hour. So this is Adam Lambert and I had drawn him at least a dozen times, but I had not for about 8 years. So I was familiar with the facial geometry, so it didn't take me as long to kind of map out the face. But I just want to show an example right away of something that's finished, where you can see where I've got the lines going across where the where's the, trying to focus that better. You can see I've got some of the lines going across where the planes go. There's a little bit of planar geometry lines up here. There's some lines going across here and here. And the whole thing is done a little bit sketchy. And then I just kind of half-assed the hair up here, but you can see that I've got the lines going in the direction that the plane is moving in. Okay, so I'm gonna, I mean, for whoever's watching this, it's just gonna be combined, but I'm gonna work this out and then come back and show it, and change the battery. Alright, so it's been a day and a half since I started this video. I did a lot of redrawing and erasing, so today, after taking a break, I've come back and I did a sketch from one of the other pictures to try to get an idea of a different angle of the face. Now this isn't a perfect likeness, but I think you can almost tell who it's supposed to be. Let me get to the picture I was looking at. Where is it? Oh, okay. Alright, so I was using this picture right here. And you can see it's just kind of a rough sketch, but I was trying to figure out the different shapes of the face from a different angle, because the straightforward one is actually not straightforward. And depending on someone's facial geometry, it can be really difficult to figure out where to put stuff. So this is what I've got right here that I've been working on for about an hour. Now I started this one by blocking in the basic shapes of the face. I went with the cheekbones, and then I came up to the top of the head. I did the chin a couple of times, and I started getting these sort of circular shapes in the nose, and then I actually put in this eye here. Now, in order to anchor it a little bit, I did darken up some of this stuff, and I've been coming in and picking out these individual shapes of the shading. So I'm coming over here and I'm trying to work on this eye, and I've got this shadow shape here that I've been trying to draw. I've erased it a couple of times, but this is the kind of shadow shape, and it's connected to some other ones, but when I go in and I kind of figure out which way it's going and shade that in, and I'll be able to come up here and figure out the eyebrow and try to get back in here where the eyelid joins, and this part over here that's kind of shaded in a little bit. And I'll come in and redraw that some more. I did the eye like in total already, and I wasn't liking it. And see, also I have this shape here that's kind of this other round shape that's coming off the eye that you can see it. Let me get this in here. You can see that shape coming off right here a little bit. Some of this I'm overdrawing a little bit, and then I can always go back and, like, if I think this part over here where this little, let me get the focus back. I have this little flying V shape down here, and I've made it a little bit dark, so if I want to, I can come back and erase it and try to get it in a little bit lighter. Some of it's just sort of lines, and some of it I'm shading it in, and there's other lines like down here where I need to sort of fuzz it a little bit, like make it really fuzzy, smooth it out a little bit. And the eraser does get stuff on it, but if you just rub it on the table, it comes off and you get a clean eraser again. Look at that. There we go. Get that shit off of there. Beautiful. Okay, so I just wanted to hop in here before I got too far along and make a couple of pointers. One thing, if you're working on getting lips drawn in, typically a top lip will be going in a sort of inward direction. So if you have somebody's lips, you really don't usually want to just draw the outline, but the top lip is usually going to be darker than the bottom lip, and there's going to be shade where it goes underneath where the chin is. So if you want a lip to be more three-dimensional, you don't necessarily want to get the outline unless it's turning under over here. But typically when you're drawing this shape here under the nose, it's shaded in a little bit. Right, there might be a space right here where there's no shading. And then usually right above the lip there'll be a gap. You see how three-dimensional that looks right here? So instead of drawing the top lip line, even though I have it in here a little bit, it's just because it's actually darker and it's going at an angle. I've got some, I have to erase this again, but there should be a little bit of a white line there that will give that 3 dimensions without having to put in a solid line. That's something that I wanted to point out to people. Now I'm doing this with this little tiny sketchy pencil. It's only 0.7 millimeter, but like I did on this one with the vine charcoal, you can really get in there and just kind of get a, this is a fat one, you can really just kind of get in there and get a whole section at once. Maybe not with this piece, it hasn't been used in a while. You could just kind of schmood. So, I mean, it's perfectly acceptable to shade with hatch marks or just kind of like, you know, squiggly marks of any kind. I'm just kind of filling this in a little more. I did it really quickly. So, if you were using, you know, a charcoal or a fatter pencil or Conti stick or something, you wouldn't necessarily have these little squiggly lines. I just did it because that's what I'm using. If I was going to color it in with watercolor or colored pencils, I wouldn't do this shading. I would only have the lines like I've got out here where I'm blocking in the shapes. Like this, kind of. Alright, I really don't want to work on this anymore, but I feel like it's a sort of a dedication to the video to come up with a new completed product. And notice also here under the nose, I've got the nostrils in decently, and there's a wherever something pops 3-dimensionally, like where you know there's gonna be like an inch or two distance, there's a heaviness here where we have two planes really intersecting, and there's a crease like here in the lips. I made it significantly darker, and on the eyelids, and then under the nose I've drawn that in quite dark to really get some 3 dimensions going there. Okay, so I'm gonna get into this, and maybe not right now, but I'm gonna get into this and finish it before this video is complete, obviously, because once when it's up, you'll see it all at once anyway, so it won't make a difference. But for me making it, it's gonna be a minute. So this is representative of starting off brand new, about an hour of trying to sit with it. Now I did this eye and I was getting fussy, so I had to erase it already. So it's just a matter of pacing yourself, and if it takes a long time, that's fine, or you could just do, you know, a quick 5 minutes like I did with this and erase a couple of times. You can draw over it a little bit. I drew over the eye about 3 times before I erased it and got it where I wanted it. I drew over the neck a couple of times and then went back in and cut it where I wanted it. Also should note that on the space under the chin, there's a like a sort of triangular part where on the bottom of your chin, and it's not really a double chin, it's just because your head is a rectangular object in that point. Let me draw an under chin sketch here. So I just put a smiley face on there, but this is, you know, here's the neck. And this is like the top of the head. So there's this space under the chin here. This is what I'm talking about, because your head sticks out and then your neck kind of goes like that. jaw. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. It doesn't always, I just got it going the other way. So if you do have a picture that you still have a neck on and the head is at an angle, you might have to get it a little bit darker here, like I've done on this sketch, to push it back further into space, to give it more depth. Okay, so that's I think those are the only things I can think of to point out right now. So if I have anything else to say before I finish this, I will pop the camera back on. So we'll see you in like 2 seconds. Alright, so I'm just about done here, or about as done as I'm gonna get. Let me hold this up because because depending on where it is, it looks like it's at a weird angle. I think with these both aimed in the same direction, it looks pretty good. I'm gonna add some darker darks in, so I wanted to stop before then. What I've done in the last part of working on this, see how it looks weird when it's sideways all of a sudden? I try to put it this way. I'll just point it out this way because it looks more proportioned this way. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone in and I've redrawn the mouth twice. I moved it up too far, and then I moved it back down a little bit, and that gave me the right amount of space for the chin. I think it might be too tall. I might have to go in and redraw that. Let me check. I think it's too big. It's a little bit too big. I think that's what my problem is. I'm gonna fix that real quick. Try to get that in there a little bit more where it needs to be, because there's something off proportionally that's still kind of needling me and I don't like it. Try to put that in there a little bit. Yeah, that might be it. Let's fix this a little bit. Shape back in there now that the lines are too thick. Is that even on there? That's the problem with when you're using traditional art. You actually have to physically redraw stuff. If you're doing it digitally, you can just chop it and move it up and patch it over and it's fine. So I'm gonna try to get the shading back in here how I had it. I thought it was done, but not quite. I just need to fix this. Get the... Okay. Oh, that's right, because shading defines where that is. What I was gonna say is that the way that I've been doing this shading is I drew a whole bunch of lines making this sort of rounded cheek shape, and I went back and erased it to try to get in some volume. But I had a whole bunch of hatch marks over here, and I smoothed them out by using the eraser lightly to smudge it instead of wiping it away entirely. And it does make some of it go away, so I did have to where's that? It's like 4 or 5 times already. I'm kind of tired of it. Okay. trying to smudge it a little bit. A little bit of volume in there. So ready to be done working on this. Redraw the jawline because I fudged it a little to try to get it to fit in better before. So that looks right. Move his ear in a little bit. Okay. I don't like drawing ears. When I get a portrait and I get to the ears, I'm just like, ah, fuck it, I'm done. This is also because I don't feel like doing this anymore. This hair triangle here and the thing. And like one thing that you can do with like what I'm doing with these shapes, I've got this all shaded in over here, so I gotta clean the eraser off so I can get a point. And I got this light part there, so I'm gonna carve it out of this sort of gray shape a little bit. I have to go back in and fix that because it's too wide now. But that's what I was doing. I was coloring in. It's not going to be perfect. I don't care. A little bit of a... Use this one. Oh, this eraser is terrible. Okay, so that's probably fine. Okay, so it's a little bit darker. In there a little bit more. Okay. I think that's about where I need it to be. Should be fairly... better. Kind of looks worse. Whatever. I'm kind of tired of it. Anyway, so, let's see. No, I think her nose is still too long here, but like I said, I'm not going to redo it. So the whole point of me farting around with that was to try to get it to look more how I wanted it to, but, it's probably too... Whatever. Okay, so there's gonna be some problems with it, and it's because it's the first time I've drawn this face. There's gonna be some inaccuracies, but the whole point is that I was just about done, but I got this charcoal pencil here, and it wouldn't sharpen in the sharpener, so I had to sharpen it with the X-Acto knife there. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get in some, if I can. This is what happens when you don't use these things for 20 years, is they get pretty crusty. So I'm going to use the charcoal to pop in these darks here. Man, that thing sucks. I need... Okay. Alright, there we go. Maybe. Some of it is because the graphite is fully on there already. Is that even gonna... I should have used like a marker or something. Okay, here we go. Maybe. Why is that not working? I have to use something else. Let me try this other charcoal pencil and see if this one will go. Good sharpener. Hold on. I'm having technical difficulties. Piece of shit. So let me do an instructional video and have the drawing come out off and then have my equipment not work because it's fucking old. Always something going wrong. If I was making this for a client, I would have to redraw it some more. Alright, let me try this one. This one not working. Maybe come in from the other side. I think it just doesn't want to go over the graphite. Okay. I think it just doesn't want to go over all the graphite that I put in there. In the wrong place. Okay. Just a little bit of darker in the eyebrows because they were pretty dark there. I feel like there's still something really subtly wrong with this drawing, and I'm not quite sure what it is. Okay. Get a little bit in here. And in here. Okay. So let's kind of pop those a little bit. So what I really wanted to do with the charcoal, maybe this other one will work now that I've gotten it here, is I want to get the outline of this big black border here. But it's going to help me cheat a little and redefine these edges. Ear in the right, I guess her ear is kind of in the right place. It should be a little bit lower. I'm going to put it down here a little bit. That one's kind of alright. Alright, so this darkness kind of blends into her hair right away. There's the face. Bit on the nose here to pop that out because that's sticking out in 3 dimensions too. Is that better? Yeah, that's better. And maybe here on the eyelids too. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so I need over here on this side and get this where it kind of goes into the hairline. Is that doing the right? How does that work? It's like it should be up more. I have to come at it from the bottom. Okay, where am I at? Over here. Along the ear. Okay, so that's pretty close. Okay. So I just went around, and it's just gonna be weird because it's like cut off there. But I had some of the hair coming in over here a little bit. Just wanna give it sort of a field to exist in. I'm gonna give it sort of like an energy line, so I'm just gonna put the, I know that's annoying to listen to, I'm just gonna get this charcoal sort of in the same direction that the body is going. So it'll be like an energy line. So hair coming down over here. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Okay. Almost done here. Mostly because there's a certain point in any drawing where you can just kind of give up and say that you're done, even if it's, you know, there's still stuff wrong with it, because it's either when it's completed, when you've run out of room, or when you've given up. It's kind of more of a square area here. little bit. Just trying to finish my little area here before I have to sharpen this again. There. Alright. So that's what I got. So now that I've got that dark shape around there, it does kind of pop the face out, and then I've got those little couple of points of adding back in a little bit of darker dark to really get the 3 dimensions in there. What else do I need that? Maybe right here. Those ones are kind of messed up over here. I wasn't that careful with the charcoal. I'm just kind of so over this. Get a little bit more shading here. Alright, I think if I add anything else to that, it's just going to ruin it. So there's a face that's... The nose, I think it came out, I did it a little bit too long, so I'd have to move it down a little bit, but we've got some, I'm going to put a little bit more over here too. There. So a little bit of, I think this needs to be flatter. Something. Alright, well, there we go. It's a face. It's kind of like what it's supposed to be. I'm gonna call it good. Again, this is the first time I've drawn Adele, so it was very unfamiliar. And now if you draw the same face multiple times, it tends to get easier because you know how like how long the nose is in comparison, how wide, and you'll have a general sense of where things need to be. When you start out with the new thing, it tends to be more difficult, which is, but you can still see that it is clearly a face and how it kind of looks like who it's supposed to be. And again, I'll probably in a couple years I'll be easier on myself. I'm just mad that it doesn't look perfect. But I'm gonna clean the charcoal off of my hands. I'm gonna have to spray my whole friggin' table now. Hopefully I didn't get it in the lens cap. And then I'm going to quick show a couple of examples of faces in other mediums besides a combination of pencil and charcoal. Alright, so I cleaned up the table a little bit. It's still wet. My issue with this drawing is that this eye is up a little bit too high and I didn't move it because I didn't feel like it, and so the whole thing just, you can see it's like this eye needs to come down a little bit. And I just didn't feel like redrawing everything, so it's gonna be like imperfect in comparison, and also because it looks weird because the top of her head is missing. But just in general, like again, because it was a face that I wasn't used to and I wasn't grandly inspired, I just kind of picked something. Usually if I'm more into it, I'll be more attentive to the detail, or I'll be like more familiar and having looked at somebody's work recently. But again, in drawing a real face, no matter how carefully it's done, there's always going to be some tiny little imperfection, unless you're like thousands of hours super meticulous measuring each and every little speck of it, kind of a thing. But I find there's always a little bit of inaccuracy. But the general idea is to be able to draw a face with this information, not to have it come out perfect. But I did bring out a couple of older works. So this is 20 years old. This is a sample with colored pencil that I copied from a photo. So you can see clearly in this how having a dark upper lip creates the space that's needed. Now, on this one, I didn't have all the shading going in the direction of the plane because I had not been to college yet, and I didn't know that. So, it's all graphite and then colored over with colored pencil, and it tends to, it's like dried out over time. But this is really thin printer paper. So that's one example of faces. Here's a newer one. This is from 2000. When the hell is this from? 2013. Okay, so this is Auto-Tune Jesus, and I drew it in the graphite, like the mechanical pencil I was using, and then this is all colored in Sharpie, so it would have erased it. So this is more neon than it comes out on here, but so there's an example of a face. Again, there's always slight inconsistency, so let me bring this over and I'll show you the only, what is it? I only have one of my pastel chalk drawings. It's 10 years old, and I'm just going to put the lens cap over the camera so I can walk over there and walk over to it. I'm going to turn this light off too because it's going to have glare. Hold on. Okay. Oh, and I gotta shut the friggin' window shade too. Hold on. Let me get over here. Okay. So, alright. So there is... I still have glare. Let me zoom in on this a little bit. It's because it's in glass now. Try to get out of the frame. Alright, so that's chalk pastel using those same methods. That's... I think it was like 7 hours or something. I do have that up on my DeviantArt so you can see it without the glare, but that's that same method, chalk pastel. So that's all that I have. I had a lot of other portraits. Oh, and I meant to bring up a different one. Let me bring one up on my computer and I'll show that one too. Okay, so here is on my computer. On the right is a finished drawing that I did. What the hell is it? I can't see the date on there. I think it's, oh wait, hang on. The file name. So this is 2010. This is a drawing I did called Mother Monster, and on the, over here is the line work that I did for it with the face drawing method. So let me, I don't know if I can zoom that in anymore. No, not really. Okay, so there's the line work that I did. You can see there's some planar work up here, and then getting like line shapes and things, and then there's a little bit more sketchiness and just kind of scribbles there. So, and then over here, when I colored it in with the Sharpie and then erased in the colored pencils and then erased everything else. Whoa, that was weird. It's got a color shift. It came out as this final product here, looking rather like a comic book thing. So I do have other faces, digital, watercolor, oil pastel, chalk pastel, colored pencil. I think that's it. I don't think I've done any portraits in acrylic paint outside of the one I'm working on now and the angel ones I did, which were human faces, but they weren't very good portraits. I don't feel like digging those out right now, but this is just a sample of what you can do when you do line work. You don't have to fill it in like I did with the charcoal. You can put another medium over it entirely and color it in, or leave it like this. This one I have a work in progress image without the background colored in, but then that was like the final scan before destroying it. So it's my how to draw faces video. Hopefully it was useful. And let me go back over to the table. Alright, here we are, back to the drawing board, so to speak. Alright, so faces and sketches and so on. So this is where I'm at here. Now, I have actual art items for sale besides doing tarot and doll videos. They're in my catalog. I'm going to add that to my catalog, so that will be for sale. I know it's not exquisitely perfect, but it's worth at least 40 bucks, if not more. Okay, so in my catalog, I have chapbook packs, which are little bits of poetry, like you'd find in my book Lantern, and then also little drawings like these guys will be, stuff like that will be in the chapbook packs. And then some printed cards with images of some of my other art. Not anything that I've shown, but they will be in envelopes, like so. Envelopes. These ones I made out of old drawings. So there's art on those envelopes. Stuff like that. So those are the chapbook packs. They have randomized art and writing in them, with a few different printed things of different art to look at. And then I offer digital portraits, so they'll be like this, only digital and a little bit more accurate, and of your favorite person or pet. I charge more for celebrities because they have to really look like the person. I have thread knit keychain, that's basically a dream catcher. I have foam lotus, which is this guy right here. I do drawing and painting commissions, so those are going to be flat. They're not going to be three-dimensional paintings like this son of a bitch over here. So flat works. Trying to get away from the canvas boards because they're not that great, but I do have like a small stretch canvas, and I've done a couple of paintings for my friends on commission that they paid me for. I did chalk pastel commission last year. I did a chalk pastel twice for other commissions. I've done a few of the digital portraits. So I also have stuffed animals. Ooh, I just hit the camera. So like this guy, this is my second prototype. So I have those. I have giant pony, which I don't have a sample of. So those are what I got. Stuffed animals. I have figurines, which would be Sculpey or some other modeling clay. Those would be made to order. And then the art a la carte is pieces like this. I think this is actually in the catalog right now, but I can't remember. And then I have some other psychedelic drawings right now. And when they sell, I'm going to change them out. So if I update the catalog, finally, when some of this sells, I gotta remember to put the template for this in the catalog. It's on my DeviantArt page in the shop. You can buy it there. Or you can email me if you want a template for this. It's a couple of bucks. I think it's listed in the description box of my infomercial video with all the other information like this. So again, on Amazon, I've got my lantern book here. This is a drawing that I did. It's called Bugia de los Muertos because he's holding a candle. And my coloring books. Let me get them. I'm doing this massive show and tell because I'm doing an art video. So this is a drawing that I did, or well, a piece that I made because it's carved mat board. So there's Energy Forms coloring book, all kinds of other drawings in here. And then the Draco Forms coloring book, which has other things in it. Different kinds of things. I'm trying to, I'm looking for a specific one. There we go. That's a redrawing of Liquid Feline, which was, the original drawing was the basis for my logo. Kitty. I'm kind of rambling at this point, but I mean, I figure this video is already going to be hella long, so whatever. Put these where they're not going to get dirty. So that's art. So Amazon titles, Energy Forms, Draco Forms, and Lantern over there. The covers are slightly different, but they still have the same images because I redid them last year. So if you want to buy anything from me, tarot readings, stuff from the catalog, I guess that's kind of it right now. Template. You want to donate to my channel, That's paypal.me/CattheMinion. Cash App is CattheMinion. Venmo is CattheMinion. You can find me at all these other fine locations, all these places. I'm CattheMinion. I'm the Cat Came Back on Twitter. If you want to email me, that's thecatcamebackatcamp@gmail.com. And then on Facebook, I am T Kenyon Art. I think that's everything. Let's have another look at that. So this is what we're doing here. We're trying to learn how to draw faces better. Sort of a quick start guide to doing it. Now these probably look halfway decent because I've been drawing decently for 20 years, and I've been drawing entirely for like 35 years, so I've had some practice. I'm still paying for my edumacation, so there we have it. Okay, also like, share, subscribe, comment, donate, check out my playlists, because I might actually be adding more to my Cat's Corner thing here with this after this. I've got the dolls, some of which I've worked on, a lot of them I've customized, and then the tarot. I like to have different shows on my channel. Alright, take it easy, stay groovy, bye!